this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to model a skewed intersection. And some things that have already been completed before we start working on our modeling for our corridor is our geometry has been complete. It's referenced to our DGN. We have an active terrain, also referenced to the DGN. And our plan elements are also have been created. And the through roadway for this corridor, which is called ML69, that has been modeled because we're going to use and target some of the 3D features in that model to help us finish this skewed intersection. And so let's look at some of the templates that we're going to use. The main template we're going to use is going to be this one here. And I use some display rules, but you don't have to. Because what we're going to do is once our template gets to the areas where there's a return geometry, we're going to go ahead and shut off the shoulder and the end conditions through this area, and we're going to use and create a terrain and some surface templates and some linear geometry, or excuse me, linear templates to finish the returns. So through the return area, I just created a display rule that just turns off the shoulder and end conditions like that. But you could also create a template that looks just like this, and instead of doing the display rules, you would just drop the additional template. And then the other one we're going to use is this piece here where it's just pavement, and this will be used just in here. It's going to be real small, and then there's going to be another template that we're going to use, which is going to be this one, where we're going to finish off this little wedge, and this will make more sense once we get going. But that's going to be right in here where my cursor's at. Let's go ahead and create the corridor. So over here in corridor modeling tasks, I'm going to go ahead and create a corridor, and I selected the create corridor button here. Locate the corridor baseline. I was following the prompts. Reset for active profile. And the name, I'm just naming after the alignment. And then I'm going to Alt down to select my template. It's going to be the one we just looked at. I'm going to accept. And then my start station, I'm just going to use the intersection snap and intersect to there. And then the end station, I'm just going to key this in. And that's 1470, 54, 84. And my template drop interval will be 5. And I'm not going to do any start or stop transitions, so I'll just go ahead and data point through those. And then my description is going to be, I'm going to say that this is the full template. Then I'm going to go ahead and right click, and then we should see this show up in our 3D view. So you can see that showed up in our 3D view. One thing we might want to do is just adjust the design stage. And to do that, we're just going to go back to the corridor and change that from functional to design. And that's just going to tighten up our spacing. And you can see that happened here. So now what we need to do is go ahead and turn off the shoulder and the end conditions through these return areas for the left and the right sides. So let's go back to my corridor objects. And I like using the heads up display as much as I can, but you could go to the object, corridor objects, locate it through here or through the heads up display. And these are going to be parametric constraints for my display rules. And then I could snap to the location because I want to turn off the shoulder and the end condition through the return area. But I have these written down, so I'm just going to go ahead and key these in. 68, 23, 27. We should see that once I hit return. It takes me right to that spot. And then the end, this is going to be, and I was going to go to the end of the corridor here at 1470, 54, 84. I'm just going to go ahead and accept that. And the constraint label, I'll go back up to the dialog because it doesn't allow me to like alt down and look at a list where right here I have to hit the arrow to go through them. I prefer coming back up to the dialog in this case and selecting the constraint, which is left no shoulder. And then I'll come back to the heads up display. And now I'm going to hit accept. And then my start value is going to be -1. My end value, -1. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to go ahead and close the dialog. And I'm going to go back and review my model. So you can see that the shoulder and the end condition turned off. And one other thing too is I want to stop this template from solving past this location here, this intersection here. I don't want it solving past here. So I'm going to need to adjust that, and we can do that. Let's go back to the corridor objects dialog. We'll change that station range for the template drop. So instead of 1470, 54, we'll go to 1470, 40, 89. Right there. So we're going to drop a different template to solve this pavement wedge or skew area, and then we'll have to drop the other template for this area here. But let's go ahead and add the other parametric constraint to turn off the shoulder and the end condition through this return area. So we're going to add a new constraint label, and it's going to be from here through the end. So I'll go ahead and key that station in, and that's 14, 69, 78. Once I hit return, it kind of locks it in there, and then you can see right where it's starting, and that looks right. And then the end, I was going to go to the end of the corridor for this one, and that's at 1470, 54. I'm going to accept that. And this is right, no shoulder. And the start value is 1 here. And the stop value is 1. And what that does is it activates that display rule on that template and turns off the shoulder and end condition. And I always like to go check once I make a single change or any change. I like to, before I move forward, to make sure that I'm getting what I expected. So here you can see the shoulder and the end conditions are turned off through that area. And the same on the left side. So that all looks good. Now we need to finish the pavement in this location. So now we just need to add another template. So let's go ahead and add a template drop. Go to Alt down, and that's going to be this piece here. Accept that. And then the station, it's going to key, it's going to go from this station here, or this intersection where we stopped, to where the center line meets the through roadway's left edge of pavement. So I'm going to go ahead and just key those in. And then I'm going to key in another one. I'll accept. And the template drop interval I want to use in this skewed area or wedge, I'm going to go ahead and have the interval be 1, because otherwise, if we use 5-foot increments, it's going to solve it, but it's kind of going to look goofy in the model. But I'll go ahead and leave it the template drop interval to 5 just to show what that looks like. this one's going to be, I'm going to say this is pave. 2 lanes, pave only. Let's go see what that looks like in the model. So you can see we have that piece of pavement, but now we need to set up a point control where we say the left edge of pavement here actually follows the ML69's corridor feature is what we're going to do. So let's go do a point control on that. So I'll go back to corridor object dialog, point control, and I'm just going to hit add new. So I'm going to create a point control from this station here, or my cursor, to here, telling the left edge of pavement is going to follow the 3D corridor feature from mainline 69. So I'm going to go ahead and key those in. 1470, 40, 89. And once I hit return, I kind of like to check to make sure it's right where I want it. And I'm going to go ahead and accept that. Then the end station, 1470, 47, 87. And that looks good. I'm going to accept that. And then the control description is just going to be we're controlling the left edge of pavement. The mode here is both, and when I'm creating the point controls, I kind of like to come to the dialog and fill it out ahead of time, and then I'll come back to the dynamic display and accept through them. So the mode will be both. The control type here is corridor feature, and the point that we want to use or control is the left EOP. The corridor that we're going to look at is the mainline 69.1. And the feature that we want out of mainline 69 is the 3D linear left edge of pavement. So I'm just going to scroll forward and find that, and that's here. My priority will be 1, and I'm not doing any horizontal or vertical offsets. So at this point I'm going to come back to my heads up display on my cursor, and I'm just going to go ahead and accept through those. So again, control type is corridor feature, left edge of pavement, accept. Priority is 1, and I'm not doing anything with horizontal or vertical offsets. Oops, looks like I right click, so I'll have to do this real quick again. That's right. And it is very finicky where you have to be very deliberate in your accepting or data point or reset. Or I hit the right mouse button and it just canceled me out of it. Now I have to do it again. But the control description is left edge of pavement. The mode is both corridor feature. The point that we're controlling is left EOP. I'm going to accept it's ML69.1 is what we're looking at. And we're finding the 3D feature left EOP in ML69.1. Priority is 1. No horizontal offsets and no vertical offsets. Once I have that point control added, we'll go look at the model. And you can see right here that it looks right in my 2D view where I don't see the boundary. But then in my model, you can't really see anything because this is less than 5 feet. So what I like to do is I'll come in here then to my template drops for that one template, not the entire corridor, but just for that one template drop, and adjust those drops. So let's go ahead and change that to 1 for the 2-lane pavement only drop. So now you can see that show up, and it looks, visually it looks better. So let's go ahead and finish the piece of pavement that we need to finish here, and that's going to be an additional template drop. And that was this one. Accept. And then the start station is going to be right here, and it's going to go to here, and we're going to finish this piece of pavement in here. 1470, 47, 87 is my start location. That looks right. I'll accept that. My end station is 1470, 54, 84. And that looks right too, because this is where I want to end it. And my template drop interval here, I'm just going to go ahead and, I know I'm going to put it in a 1 foot interval. And I'm not doing any stop or start transitions. My description is going to be right lane pave only. So you can see in my model, there's my template drop, and now we just need to adjust and do the same thing we did before, is take this left edge of pavement and make it follow the 3D feature from the adjacent corridor, or the ML69-1. So let's go back to point controls. And I'd go through the objects. You could also come down to this button here to create point control, but I seem to always go through the objects dialog. And then I know the start and stop station, so I'll just key those in. 14.7, 47, 87. That looks correct. And then the end station should be 1470, 54, 84. And then I'll come back to the dialog again for this. And the control description for this is going to be left DOP. The mode is both. We're going to target a corridor feature. We're going to adjust the left DOP. We're going to target the adjacent corridor, which is ML69, and we're going to look for the 3D feature left DOP from that corridor. Now I'm going to come back to my heads-up display and accept through those. So now if we look in our model, we have our pavement solving for the skewed section. That looks pretty good. So at this point, your corridor creation is done, except for now we need to create the super elevation that would, for the side road, as it rotates up to the longitudinal grade for the adjacent roadway, or ML69, and then that corridor would be complete. So that's going to be our last step now, is we'll need to figure is what is the super rate of change for each side of the pavement so it meets the longitudinal grade of the through roadway. So I'm just going to go ahead and add those parametric constraints into my corridor, creating that change. So I'm going to go back to my corridor, objects, and my parametric constraints. I'm going to go ahead and add new. And again, I have these written down, but we're going to go ahead and we'll do the right side first. And again, this is just changing the super elevation of the roadway. So my normal cross slope is 2%, but I need to rotate the 2% to meet this longitudinal grade. So I'm just going to go ahead and key these in. 1469.98, accept. And then my end station is going to be 1470, 40.89. And then my constraint is going to be the right edge of pavement slope. And then the start value is going to be my normal ground, which is 2%. And then my stop value here, in this case, or example, is going to be 0. So I'll accept that. Now that takes me from normal ground to 0, but I'll need to go to finish the last piece here. So that's going to be 1470, 40.89 to 1470, 54.84. Constraint label again is the right EOP, and that was going to be 0 to 0. Now it'll be hard to see that change, but we'll see if we can see that. Where we're really looking at this right EOP here, and that needs to change or adjust the cross slope so it meets the longitudinal grade of the through edge of pavement here, and you can see that that's really, that's really close, if not right on the money. And that's important because once we go through and finish the return pavement, we're going to use those 3D features to create this return. So now we're going to go ahead and we'll adjust the left side pavement cross slope. And again, that's just going to be a parametric constraint. We'll add new. And this is going to be the left side, so I know these 1469.98 to 1470, 40.89. And this is going to be the left EOP slope. Start value is 2, my normal ground, and my stop value is going to be 0. And that's all I had to do for the left side, where here I need to go from 0 to 0. Because in this, the pavement elevation through these areas right here, the corridor is defining that, but this edge here for the left EOP and the right EOP needs to rotate up to that elevation. So we're going to look at the model through that area. You can see that this pavement is matching up with the through edge of pavement. So that's the first step in creating a skewed intersection, and we went through how to create the corridor. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and talk about how do we create the rest of the returns. How do we create and finish the return geometry, or how do we finish the return modeling?